Hi, this is Myra with Boutique Paint. This week we're going to start working on some Valentine's decor. So today we're going to do wall art, and I'm going to use the veranda stamp, IOD. And what I did is I grabbed a 8x10 artboard IOD and I painted it white swan. And so what we want to do is I just cut out in a piece of paper a heart that would fit in this space. First I'm going to find the center. It's an 8-inch, but it's just a smidge under 8, so we're going to just kind of center it. This is a disappearing pen, so it will be there for 24 to 48 hours. And I like using them. They're in the fabric department of, like Joann's, obviously. But yeah, they're for fabric. So now I'm just going to draw the heart. Doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. Now hopefully it doesn't disappear on me quickly, because since I just painted this sometimes, and because it's raw wood underneath, see, it's disappearing on me. So I'm just going to go over this a little heavier. You could use paint to do this next part. I personally like, it's disappearing quickly. I personally like to use the ink, and I want a brown. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of turmeric, and I'm just squeezing it onto an acrylic sheet. Now, if you think you're going to use brown in the future, I would say just get one of the empty bottles and go ahead and mix up enough to put into one of those bottles or ink up your pad. I'm going to go ahead and mix these two and see what color. Yeah, it's kind of a sunshiny color, which is pretty, but not really what I'm going for. So I am going to go ahead and add the China blue. It's still very orange. So let's add a little bit more blue. It's getting there. It's kind of a burnt umber. And that might have been too much blue. Let's see what we got. So the pieces we're wanting to use next are the V's and this long piece here to make the heart. So I'm going to start out by doing the small one. And these are going to be the V's that are on the heart. And like I said, this isn't exact, so we don't have to worry about it being exact. So I'm going to go down a little ways. So next we want to do the bottom, and it's not going to be exact either. That's all right. So just kind of eyeball this part. So now what we want to do is carefully walk this around the heart. So we started there. We're just going to carefully walk it. Now I kind of goobered there because I went further than I really wanted to. So going around, obviously the top of that is the hard part. So just walk it a little bit and then lift it, pick it up. And if you got a second set of hands, children, grandchildren, husband. So it's funky. That's okay. We're going for the look of the branch. And I know you're thinking to yourself, well, you goobered up there. What are you doing? Well, I can touch up paint that. That's the nice thing, is when you're using the ink, you can just go back if you've boo-booed If you don't like the whole thing, you can go back and just repaint it. This is a little messy. I'm not going to lie. Now this will be a little bit easier because it's a little straighter. So next what we want to do is we want to find some transfers. Now, if you have some bits and pieces of a transfer, you know, set aside, grab those, because this is a great project for using up some of that. But we need something a little bit on the small side, or something we can cut up to use on this. That rose piece is very pretty. Let's see what else we have. A lot of these are very big, so obviously they're not going to work for what we're needing. That's very pretty too. Just so I think what I'm wanting is maybe just this here. So if you want to see how it's going to look, just pull the carrier paper back. Don't set it down on it. Just kind of pull it back and see. I'm going to try this one and this one here. So I'll grab my scissors, which I buried. And I'm going to go ahead and cut out the entire flower and then just kind of play with placement. So on this, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here. I'm going to cut this part off. So it's going to be ending where the heart ends. So I'll go ahead and remove the paper backing. We're just going to set it right on top. All right, looks pretty good. So I think just play with the positioning. There's no wrong positioning. It's just whatever it is that you like. So I think I'm going to grab this little 3-leaf piece and see about adding that. So a little bit of this is going on top of the transfer that I just put down, and that's okay, that works. So now I'm going to grab the writing on this, and I think I'm going to grab this little rose stem here. I'm not going to get the whole thing. So I've got some of this seam binding, and this is just a white, and this is just slightly off-white, but I think it'll be fine. But it's flat, meaning it's not wrinkled, and I like using wrinkled a lot of times for, it just gives it a little bit of extra, I don't know, texture, a little extra something. So, to do that, I'm going to scoot this over so I don't get it all wet. I could use my spray bottle. I'm just going to spray this. And just kind of, it doesn't have to be super, super wet. but you just want to wrinkle it. So you're scrunching it up. So now to get this dry, what you can do is just put it on a paper towel and let it dry like that, or just on your counter. If it's really wet, like if you put it under the faucet, you may want a paper towel, and just let that dry. So I did a video on how to make this, but also how to tie the bows. And it took me a few times to get it, but then when I got it, it was like, oh, thank goodness, because I'm horrible. I was horrible at doing bows. So basically, I'm going to take my bow, and I've got all this extra, and I did that on purpose. So I'm just going to... And now what I want to do is I want to kind of bring this over to the edge. So I'm going to continue to basically loop it. And I want it to kind of look like it's free floating. So I'm just kind of making loops. Same thing on this side. I'm just going to do some loops. I think here I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. This is, if this is something you want to do, I would do it obviously before you put the ribbon on, but I did the project and then I was looking at it and I'm like, it just kind of feels like it needs something. So I have this Tattered Rose, which is Ranger's ink, and it's pretty close to these colors that are in here. So I'm just going to go along and just with the edge at a 45, just add a little bit of a... Now these these stamp pads are denser than like IOD's stamp pad or some of the other stamp pads. When I do this with the gold, you get a lot more, you can push in more so you can get more of an ink, more ink on it. But this is just a barely, and it's actually kind of pretty. But I'm not sure. I think I'm going to try to push a little harder. I'm going to move that out of the way. If you just want that teeny tiny pinstripe, this works really, really well. I think I want a little bit more, so I'm just going to roll it to the front a little bit more. So I'm rolling it this way over the front just to add a little bit. And you can see how subtle that is, but quite pretty. So it's very, very subtle, but I really like it, and it adds just a little bit of something. That's it for this week. If you have any questions about any of the products I use, you can go to our website at www.boutiquepaint.com, and thank you so much for joining me. Bye.